It's the tri-tip steak of being a better man. Today on the Manspace. Welcome to the Manspace podcast. We're your hosts, Doctors Matt Brown and Rob Porter, and clinical therapist Mike Porter. Welcome, spaceman. Mike, don't look like that.
The tri-tip steak.
Yeah, because I'm going to ask you guys your three things.
Sure.
Plus, this will make my my bandmates in San Luis Obispo excited, because if you ask them, did I say Obispo? Obispo. They'll get excited because if you ask them, they invented tri-tip steak. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I've never actually looked it up. Not that they invented it, but that they were the ones who really started, like in San Luis Obispo. Where was try? I'll let everyone hear me typing. Steak. No, not on the cow. I forget we're actually already recording, so I was like, oh, I have to talk. I can't just do that. I can't just type and search. Anyway,
I can.
What are you doing it right now?
Yeah.
This is the best kind of meandering.
Hey Siri, where does tri-tip steak come from?
They're listening to us do Google searches.
See, all it tells me is that it comes from the bottom part of the cow. It does
this
not
says
tell me.
Tri-tip steak originated in Santa Maria, California.
Well, that's awkward.
In the 1950s. A butcher named Bob
it is apparently
Schutz.
known as the California cut.
All I know is when I went to try to buy some here, I don't know what I was buying it for, but it was like non-existent. I could not find it anywhere.
You couldn't find tri-tip?
No.
That's called the California cut?
Yeah.
Because it was invented apparently in Santa Maria, California.
So how close is Santa Maria to San Luis Obispo?
I don't know, but there's probably a song about that. How close is Santa Maria to San Luis Obispo? Rolls right off the tongue. I cannot. This is probably my favorite meandering we've ever done. I will say this. You guys, we talked about this, but San Luis Obispo does not have drive-thrus. They do have fast food. We've talked about that before.
But
you
you
can't
can't
drive-thrus?
That's what it is. Okay.
No
Because they
drive-thrus.
don't want like idling cars to pollute.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. He also apparently. I was informed that the no plastic bags thing, was it that originated in San Luis Obispo County.
Makes
like
sense.
In California, you can't have plastic bags at grocery stores unless you pay for them.
Well, that's good because
it's only 30 minutes from San Luis Obispo, by the way.
I read an article this morning that said that like California, there's waste that we send, I don't know,
to Malaysia?
Somewhere.
Someone refused it recently and said, we don't want your waste.
And apparently, like, California is the one everyone's blaming.
Oh, yeah?
Like
you
10 million,
all your waste off.
10 million pounds of plastic just from California.
Jeez.
Wow.
And I think that the article I read said there was something like 80 million pounds total, but 10 million of that comes from just California.
It's a big state.
So is Texas. It didn't get listed in the article as donating 10 million pounds of plastic.
We just shove it into New Mexico.
I know.
When they're not looking, they're like, no, shove it all in there, hurry.
Or they just throw it down to my end of the parking lot in my office. I'm like in a wind tunnel and I always collect like everything for miles from here.
I should just start throwing stuff out my house with my name on it
where
and
it
see if it ends up
Tell
in
me
Matt's.
when it arrives, man.
See if it happens in Matt's. All right. So in the interest of time, because that's what we do, we get on here and shoot the breeze. We should start recording that and sending it off and making it subscription based. Although we'll probably get in trouble
for making our rambling subscription based.
No, for making,
or just for some of the things we say.
Maybe we should do that. We should just make our episodes like 20 minutes of like the meat. And then you can subscribe to the other 20 minutes of like us shooting the breeze.
There's another podcast I used to listen to that does that. It's like the after ramblings. If you want to stay on and like listen to us. Yeah.
What we should do is
the grease
make them subscribe for the meat.
Oh, that's
we should give them the chit chat.
No, because then no one wants to hear it.
and then make them subscribe to them. Dude,
What are
who's
we-
going to pay
It's like
to
we're
listen to us
dealers.
ramble?
Oh, people who love us. There's so many people who love us. Dozens.
And yet
All
we
over
only
the
have
world.
an angel investor and a patron saint.
There, like
If
I've
there
told
were all
you
these people who love this and want to spend money, then I feel like there would be more than those two. Don't get me wrong.
I think what we need to do is have an episode where we just talk about all the possible names that you could earn if you invest by sending us drinks.
I was going to say, I love how invest is a very loose term.
Yeah, just give me a gift certificate to
Yeah, just for the
QT.
record. All they do
Although,
is send us crap.
Wouldn't work here.
I've recently decided QT's drink mix sucks.
Come move to Missouri, you'll disagree.
You know who has the best drink mix?
HEB.
Maverick.
Do they have Mavericks there?
No.
But they have the best
they
drink
have them
mixes
here
by far. You should be
You have
going
them
there.
Well, they so they bought out Come and Go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they're rebranding all of them Mavericks.
Lucky.
Okay.
Come and
So,
Go is
'cause
big,
you've got-
through Arkansas and
Yeah. You've got
And-
Come and Go and Casey's are like your big
Yeah.
ones, right?
yeah, and then QT's. I think they might have corporate here
Wow.
because there's QT everywhere. And there's a big QT corporate-y looking building when I drive somewhere. I can't remember where I drive when I see it, but
Well,
That should be an episode sometime. All the gas station names.
that's all we talk about.
I'm just
one-
curious, like what the
talk
I
about
still
why
love
Come and
the-
Go is the worst one.
Well, I still love the one by there's the loaf and jug and loaf, and then there's one in Lubbock right near my old house called Toot and Totem.
Oh yeah, we've got a Toot and Totem here.
You do?
Yeah.
It's so
No,
awesome.
we have. I only ever go to there's one gas station by our house called The Station, but their drink selection sucks, so I've never actually
That's really
bought a drink from them.
presumptuous, man.
And then there's
What?
Matt that's like
That's
Matt's like,
presumptuous.
Mediterranean Bilbo.
Oh, by the way, dude,
Does he miss us?
you know it got its nickname from the music and Bilbo, but I went in the other day and it was like 80s love ballads blasting.
Oh
yeah.
With no Mediterranean beach scenes on the TV. I was like,
Oh.
what happened?
Oh, maybe it got bought out.
He was still there. I don't know.
Dude, Matt, you have like the worst luck for gas stations around your place, man.
I know we just got a brand new one, but it's Time Stop, I think is what it's called.
And
There's a bunch of them here, and they're not great. But I went in
Oh.
last night on the way home, so I was like, I'm just going to see their fountain drink situation. It was all closed off, and the lady behind the counter was like 90, and there was only one other person in there, and I don't think he was even asking a pressing question or anything. And she's just like, "Wait, hold on!" She was all frazzled, and I'm like, "Lady, what happens when there's 5 of us in here?"
wait, it reminds me, I have to tell you a story about why it's important to drink soda.
They're discontinuing Purple Thunder. Sorry.
What?
Yeah.
Says who?
Maybe that's why when you were here and we tried to get some, it was just all
Yeah.
clear liquid.
Mountain Dew discontinued like 10 flavors, and Purple Thunder was one of them.
You shut
their
your
current-
dirty mouth.
Their current
like-
summer flavor, Summer Blast, or
Oh, I've
whatever
had
it
it.
is.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good.
It tastes like a
Side note,
bomb
dude,
pop.
on Mountain Dew.
Tastes
I was
like
drinking
what?
one of these. So
Mhm.
sorry.
Go ahead,
I was,
Matt.
I was drinking one of these yesterday. My last client was like, "Dude, you gonna like bust through a window on your skateboard when you leave here today?"
What does he think you're the Kool-Aid man?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
So-
why we should like soda?
Here's
Yeah.
my story of why it's important to go drink sodas. This is I told my kids this. Is like, so the lesson is drink more soda. I decided yesterday I had an hour off, so I had a 3-hour block where I had nothing going on. So before I had some phone calls and crap like that. So before I did that, I was like, I'm gonna go outside, go for a walk, and I'll go to the gas station, get a drink.
You walked all the way?
The drink store. Well, there's a really crappy one on the freeway.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's terrible. It's got like I got there and I was like, oh, this doesn't even have any.
Oh, the one that's like right there by.
Yeah, it's one of those
like,
ones where you're like hugging the
opposite from
attendant while you get
McDonald's.
your soda.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I walk up and I see this. As I'm walking up, I see this young woman, probably in her early 20s, which she was, I found out. But she's like doing a bunch of stuff with a truck that's got a tarp, a tent fly over a bunch of stuff, and she's trying to reorganize. And I was like, oh, I don't see her husband there, but I'm walking up and she, I was like, she's going to ask me if I know how to work those ratchet straps, and those things always betray me, man.
Dude, I don't know how to work those.
So I'm walking up and she goes, hey, do you know how to work ratchet straps? I was like, oh, crap. So I walked up and I said, not really, but I'll give it a shot. She's like, I just need to know how to loosen this. And I was like, she's like, I think you do this. And I went like that, I pulled it loose and I said, yeah. And she's like, I mean, my stuff's just flying out everywhere. I was trying to we're driving to Abilene and it's just flying everywhere. And it was in the freeway and you could see she was kind of frazzled. And I was like, oh, well, let's, let me see if I can help you rearrange some stuff. And so I'm looking at in the bed of this truck and this larger dude walks up kind of behind me and then kind of starts pounding on the bed of the truck and says, crack cocaine, crack cocaine, crack cocaine. And I said, did you want some crack cocaine? And he's like, crack cocaine. And it's like, I don't have any crack cocaine. Do you have some crack cocaine? He's like, I got crack cocaine. It's like, well, enjoy it. And then
Good
he
for
just
you,
lays
talking to a homeless person, man.
Then he just
remember when they scared you?
Then he just laid down on the cement. And she's kind of freaked out. She's like, is he okay? I was like, he's just super high. Like, and so I keep doing stuff, but you can see she's a little nervous. And then all of a sudden he kind of rolls over onto all fours and starts crawling forward on the cement going, I'm horny. And I was like, and his butt crack's hanging out. And I was like, what is happening? And I was trying really hard not to laugh. I was like, but he was a big dude. And I was like, he's probably like super high strong right now. Like if you got near him, it'd be like, he doesn't know his own strength. He also was kind of like humping at the ground a little bit. I was like, what? But I was trying to like, she's frazzled. So I'm trying to keep working at the thing and trying to rearrange her stuff. And then at some point he gets up again. He starts pounding on the side of her truck. And she's like, why don't you go inside to, like to him? And I was like, hey man, I was like, you look thirsty. Let's get some water. He's like, oh, he reaches for my cup. I was like, there's not water in there, man. Let's go inside. I'll get you some water. I was just thinking like, she's freaked out. I'll get this dude away from her. And at some point he wanders off and then he kind of comes back and he's like, who are you? I was like, I'm just a guy. And then he kind of pounds on her truck
name's
again.
Keith
He pounds
McCuddles.
her truck and says something else and then goes and slams her passenger door shut. And she's got like a 2-year-old, 1.5-year-old sleeping in there. And then he starts to reach for her driver's door. And so I go up to kind of like push him out of the way. And she runs up and like opens the door and jumps inside and then shuts the door. And then he says something else, and I was like, "Come on, man, let's go get some water. You looked hot. Let's get some water. Come on, follow me." And he's not really following me. And then he starts yelling out this. I was like, "Okay, I got it." He's like, "I'm black. I'm black." I was like, oh, "Okay." And then he starts pounding on the hood of her truck. He's like, "I'm black. I'm black." I was like, oh, "Okay." But I said, I was like, "Dude, don't pound on my truck," which it's not my truck. I'm like, "Don't hit on my truck." And then she backs up, and he goes over and starts pounding on this other car that he says was his. And the door was wide open, and it could have been. He's like, "This is my car." I was like, "That's a nice car. Don't punch it." He's like, "It's my car. I can punch it." I was like, "Don't punch it. It's a nice car." And he's like punching it and punching it. And he goes over and starts punching another car. And I told her, I was like, someone's going to need to call the police. And so as he walks away, I was like, when he wasn't looking, I called the police and I, reported some things and like, we'll have somebody over there. And then they're like, "Where did he go?" I was like, "Well, he walked into the car wash."
Cool off.
And they're like, "Okay, well, let us know if anything else happens." He came back out, but he just kind of, and then the 2 cops showed up. But she's like all frazzled and panicked. And I was like, when I was rearranging the stuff in her truck bed, I was like, "Hey, who wears the Heelys?" You guys know Heelys, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, those are my husband's." She's like, "We have a matching pair." I was like, "How old is your husband?" She's like, 25. I was like, "You guys are adorable." So
what does this have to do with soda?
Because I was walking and I was like, why am I going to go get a soda? Like I got these same sodas in my like office fridge. Why am I walking over here? It's like, I'll just go get one. And if I hadn't gone to get the soda, she would have been attacked by this dude who's like, crack cocaine, crack cocaine.
The thing that's funny to me is how long it took you guys to call the cops.
It was actually fast. Like at first I was like, okay, he's acting weird. And then he walked off and I was like, whatever. Like, I'm not, I initially when he's crawling on the ground being like, I'm horny. I was like, okay, he's not hurting anybody. It wasn't until he started like hitting stuff. I was like, all right, we're going to have to call the cops. Like, cause a couple times he came back and he was like trying to lift up and see what was in her truck. And I was like, dude, I just kept saying, dude, don't, but nothing was registering, you know, like,
well, cause he's high.
Super high. I felt bad for her because she was seriously like kind of panicked and but trying to be cool.
Dude, if I had a 1.5-year-old in the car, I'd be super panicked.
And you're a 25-year-old and there's a super high dude next to you yelling out crack cocaine and be like,
and yelling out, I'm horny.
I know.
Like I would be like,
and it was funny because there was multiple other people around. And so when I called the cops, they're like, is this, I said, I'm at the corner of here and here. And they said, is this the dude punching cars? I was like, well, yes, it is. But apparently nobody else, they're like, I need a description. So I gave them, I was like, has nobody else given you one yet? Because I got back to her and she was like, I'm on the phone. I was like, I just finished the phone call with them. Like, what have you been telling them? How are you still on the phone? Anyway, so the lesson is I told my kids, let soda be your guide. If it wasn't for that soda, Rob would not have been there.
Who knows what would have happened?
Are we doing a topic today?
Well, I think you just gave us the 3 ways to be a better husband. First, be there. Don't let your wife get hammered by a high homeless dude.
Yeah, well,
and learn how to pack a truck so your wife doesn't have to stop and repack it.
It did sound like, because I overheard their conversation, it did sound like maybe he had it packed tighter, but then somebody had to get in and do something, and so that loosened everything up. I don't know. And they didn't have enough straps that would have helped. It doesn't. We don't need to analyze it. I felt bad for her, and I was like, I hope you make it to Abilene.
I mean, she will. Just depends how much stuff she'll lose along the way.
Yeah.
Or how much stuff she'll lose before she decides, I guess we need to spend the money and buy more straps.
Oh, I never thought of that.
Or a rope.
And then I tell you, I was so proud of myself because I was like, I put the thing in to redo the ratchet strap. I was like, hey, I did it. But then I realized my problem later when I walked away because I didn't get it tightened all the way down because it got too fat. I was like, oh, I know where I went wrong.
Yeah.
Because you got to kind of pull tight before you ratchet.
Mm-hmm.
I did not pull tight. Rookie mistake. All these spacemen out there are like, you idiot. I know.
That's why I don't use ratchets.
No, I was just thinking I want to buy one. Like when I transport Matt's thing up, I'm going to have to get some ratchet straps. I don't know what I'd strap it to. My minivan.
That's what I was going to say, man. Depending on where we put it, yeah.
I'll just tow it along the back. I'll just do a strap from the back and just have it rolling up. All right. Now, I told you guys this was going to be like a challenge. And we've done something like this before, but there's always these things like I see these articles periodically, probably because I've clicked on one, and so now I get them periodically, or I'll see them on TikTok. I don't actually go on TikTok. I see them on Instagram, on Insta, I mean. Which, by the way, Spaceman,
the IG,
we're starting to post again. And by saying starting to, I think there's a good chance we'll peter out again. But I did post. There's one post every day on TikTok and one post every day, shorts on YouTube.
And TikTok potentially has a buyer, so it might be sticking around.
Hey, that's true. I forgot about that. It's not going to go away. That's just Trump's way of probably trying to line his pockets. I shouldn't say that. So, just got political up in here. I want to know, at this point of your careers or your marriages, your top 3 tips to be a better husband, we'll say, not just man. Proceed.
No, where'd you go?
Up your butt.
I didn't even see him leave.
So you could hear that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of sounded like you actually were up my butt. It was kind of echoey.
That's like my favorite. Where is it? Up your butt around the corner.
Which, side note, I'm like, one time I really thought deeply about where's the exact location. Anyway,
What did
What'd
you
come up
determine
with?
to be the answer?
I don't know, because I guess it depends on what corner you're talking about. But like,
Wait,
Hey,
Rob,
Louis.
was it you that would do the?
Yep. That's how I would answer. My kids would be like, "What?" I'm like, "Up your butt around the corner."
but to your question, 3 tips. I hate this because I don't feel like I'm.
Nope. There's
Honestly,
3 answers, Matt.
No, I know. I'll stick to 3, but like, I don't feel like they're quick tips because I'm. Maybe it's just because of the kind of work we do, but I'm like, I'm so done with like hacks, tools, tips. Even though I'm like, yeah, that could be a starting place, but like,
That's a
the
good
first 2
point,
that immediately
actually.
come to mind for me is like, actually know yourself so that she's not burdened with your emotional work, and like truly invest time in seeing her for who she is, like inside and out, so that you can understand her behavior from like a place that sees her accurately, basically, right? Yeah, and the third one I think is just more like, it's not a quick one, right? It's just like invest the time and like make the commitment to just pursue growth as a couple for the rest of your lives. But those are all like not actionable, right? And I think oftentimes these things are kind of like, hey, do this, and it's like I can take this and go practice it right away. But I don't know. Those are my tips.
I want to jump back to something that you said that we'll come back to after this because I agree with you. But Mike, what are your 3?
Well, so one of them. So at the moment, I only have 2. I guess we'll see as I talk if I come up with a third. But one of them goes back to, I don't know, a long time ago, when Jenner and I went in to find the sex of what would have been our 3rd child. Went in for the ultrasound and found out we'd lost the baby. And I was doing in like handling that news, I was doing the thing I thought I was supposed to do, which was to, be quiet and be a support to my wife and to kind of not let my emotions bleed out and stuff. And at one point it just frustrated Jenner, and she's like, do you not feel anything? And I was like, well, of course I do. And she's like, then just show it. And that was like, for me, that was kind of a pivotal thing where there's still emotions I'd rather, not express in front of her for whatever, insecurities I carry. But I've tried to, since then, be better about like allowing my emotion to be my emotion, and not pretend that these difficult things don't impact me, to not pretend that it's just no big deal. It's a big deal, so let it be a big deal. And so I guess that's the first one, is just be honest with your emotions. Be honest with yourself about it. Be honest with her about it. The other one actually ties back into what Matt was saying about kind of knowing yourself and knowing and kind of understanding her. And to me, there's a like because I used to think that knowing yourself was this thing you achieved, right? Where like you reach a point and it's like, yeah, now I know myself. And the inherent flaw there is, to me at least, if that's true, then the assumption is I can't ever change, because then I won't. Anyway, it doesn't allow for change to me, that kind of black and white, like know yourself. And so to me, it's recognized, no, you're going to change. Both of you will. And to learn how to embrace it, learn how to embrace the changes. Like, I am not the man that Jenner married 26 years ago. Yeah, I've been married a long time. Shut up.
That's not.
Or was it that I couldn't quite remember?
No, you're fine. Keep going.
Anyway, to just kind of embrace that change, the idea of like, yeah, I'm not the same person. And it's fine that things that I might have liked and felt strongly about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 25 years ago, I don't anymore. And to understand that the change is inevitable, and I can't force change in someone else. But I should allow for it. I should make sure that there's room both in myself and in my spouse for change. I don't have a third. I only have those two right now.
Well, here's mine, and then we'll jump over to this other issue. Although I will say, it's whenever I like, like one of the spacemen said about the masculinity test, that it's like, well, it does help me see areas where I'm already working on stuff. Some of the stuff we're saying, it's like, oh yeah, that's a good reminder that I need to work on that. I don't believe in, we've talked about this in many episodes, I don't believe in quick fixes or, like do this one trick and it will clear things up. Whenever somebody says, this therapy is the new fix all, I'm like, no, it's not. That doesn't exist. It is so fascinating to me to watch the way we've moved so quickly. Like, it's like EMDR is barely even a thing anymore because we're all so obsessed with IFS. It's like, everyone's like, well, I referred him to this guy because he does IFS. It's like, okay. But because we all think there's a fix all. So I think I kind of lost the wording on some of these. My first one was similar. This idea of like, know yourself. I don't know if I phrased it in that way in my head. Although the way I phrase it will overlap with my number 3. My first one was like, develop yourself, like constantly look and say, okay, what kind of man do I want to be? And how do I keep becoming that kind of man? The second one was, look at and own your relationship like it is your relationship. Like, look at it like you are also in charge of your relationship. I think way too many men just assume that the woman is in charge and I'm here and I hope we have sex tonight. And then the last one was, it's some version of like, you should be looking at your relationship and your marriage as like, okay, I'm signing up for constant shaping. Like, I'm not here because it's always going to be good. Sometimes it is going to suck, but that's the only way I become a better version of myself. But if you can view it that way, then you know what you're signing up for, and you're not going to complain about it as much and be so frustrated. And you're going to understand that that's what part of the process is. Just so you guys know, 2 things. One, I did ask AI because I love to see what it says. What's interesting is I don't like their answers are fine. They said intentional listening, consistent emotional presence, and proactive acts of love. What bothered me about it is it sounds like this is how you cater to your woman. I asked, how do you be a better wife? It said something like, offer respect the way he feels it, nurture emotional and physical intimacy, and then balance support with self-care. And there it says, don't lose yourself. And I was like, well, apparently men can. Like, for men, it's like, stop being you. For women, it's like, don't forget to be you.
But you could also make the argument, the second one for women, what was it again?
Nurture emotional and physical intimacy.
Yeah.
Make sure you give your husband sex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I think, yeah, it's like, yeah.
Yeah. Which,
flawed suggestions.
Well, here's what I think is funny, because in some ways AI is so fascinating because it really is a reflection of what's on the internet. But also, I was looking up to see like, it will, will Toyota will they do any revamps on this model in the next year? And AI, those little AI summaries, it's like, yes, Toyota's going to do these revamps. And I also looked at just some links that you click on them, and these links will say this is generated by AI. Because some of them, it was like they're already going to revamp. They just started that model in 2025. Why would they revamp it already? They never do that. They don't revamp until like 2029 at the soonest or later. Yeah. Like they hold their models forever. The video that AI is referencing were videos made by AI saying, what if they did? This is what it will look like. And so AI is saying they're going to do it. So now we've already reached the point where AI is just referencing itself. It's mind-blowing. Now,
yeah, those are called hallucinations, by the way.
But we should reference them. Yeah. So here's, like, Matt, going back to your thing, I think this is one of the things that I feel like we'll get to this when we talk more next week about the book, the Scarcity Brain, but it gets at this idea that, like, we have become so quick to consume that it's like we just want this, like, just tell me the quick answer thing that's going to make this thing go fast. Instead of any sort of development and recognizing there isn't one of those things. So this hack thing, it's so prevalent everywhere that it also, I think the real danger is it makes everything seem so simple. Mm-hmm. Like, why don't you just do this? And it's like, because it's way more complicated than that.
Yeah.
Like talking with somebody today where it's like, why doesn't he, respond to these sexual needs I have? It's like, well, did you ever consider that he's worried about rejection or this or this? It's like, but I'm making it so obvious. It's like, are you?
Well, I was going to say, does he even know about the sexual needs? And then, have you talked about them?
Yeah. And he can say, well, I didn't realize this or that. So it's like, yeah, it's never that simple. And that's what it is. I do say it because I think the three of us have all said, and, we talk to each other all the time and we think alike. So it's not surprising that we all said similar versions of things. Clearly, we all think that if you're going to be, maybe you guys would think this summary is wrong, but if you're going to be a better husband, you have to first start by being a better dude. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no, like, I can just be whatever and then be a really good husband. It's like, if you're kind of a skeezy dude, you're going to be a skeezy husband. Mm-hmm. So be a better version of yourself. So there is no like quick hack to that. And that's what's like, I was thinking about this too, like what it actually takes to change something. And don't worry, these will come back. But I recently deleted all the games off my phone, just because I realized that it's not that I don't think they were really hurting me that much, except taking away from even just being able to sit there. So, this is something that everyone talks about, like the habit of like pulling my phone out. I pull it out and I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this? Mm-hmm. Like, there's nothing to do on here. Read more news, I guess, but that's depressing. Yeah. But anyway, I do think it's hard, because this is one of the things the book will talk about too, is it's like I like the idea of having, Robbie, when he would edit stuff for us, he's like, hey, can you guys do like a, 5 tips to this or this, like, because that grabs people's attention. Mm-hmm. And I feel like, yeah, but do you have to sucker someone in, Mike? When you talked about your one idea, I was like, was it just to sucker in to get you to read the article so that then he could say, well, actually, it's a long-term thing,
I actually read an article this morning where in the first paragraph, they openly acknowledged it's not what it seems. I had to type that so that you would click the article. And I was like, wow. Yeah. Like, you actually acknowledged that nothing I'm going to read reflects what that statement says.
Which is really sad to me. Go ahead, Matt.
It is, but I also think, like you're saying, what's the state that anybody is in when they pick up their phone? That usually you're not like, I'm really ready to take a deep dive into
like, I'm really looking to understand
of
this.
Life, right? It's just more like what grabs my attention away from just like the constant drivel of like just like meaningless entertainment, right? And if it gets me thinking just a teeny bit about like, oh yeah, like that's a problem in my life, but I'm busy watching like cat memes, so like, or cat reels, so that breaks the attention enough for me to say, oh yeah, I can relate to that, but I'm only ready to like engage in it in a really surface level way. Well, but then like you're saying, if I read it and I'm like, I disagree with that, then I'm starting to go deeper into myself, right?
Mhm.
Or if I think like, oh, I could do that, then you might be playing out what you're saying. Like I could do that, but you know what? It probably wouldn't make a huge difference. And you just, I think it's just like a concentration breaker.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much coming at us. But yeah, I think that sometimes when people are in distress, they're just like, yeah, give me 5 things I can do. But I do think that's like we've talked about before, that's when you're looking at life, really, not just your relationships, as like tasks to be completed or boxes to check.
Mhm.
And if you look at your relationship that way, like it will become a never-ending list of boxes to check. And because that's the level of engagement and attention your relationship can sustain. And guys are right when they say it's never enough, because it's like, yeah, because that's the energy that keeps your relationship
Right.
moving. That's what keeps the attention, right? Is like this interaction of, you did this wrong, okay, well, I'll do it, right? Or and unsatisfying for both partners. But like you're saying, if I look at my relationship as more like, I don't know, the gym is necessarily a good analogy, but something where your goal is kind of like ongoing growth,
Mhm.
and like increasing vitality and meaning, which I think is a hard place for your mind to go just with the way we live. But I think, like you're saying about, you should be looking at, how is this going to stretch me? How is this going to grow my potential? And it can also be a source of comfort where I say, I'm totally spent, right? Like nobody's meant to just be in growth mode all the time. Like everything that's living has periods of like growth and rest. And yeah, I mean, I think when you just pay attention to the way life actually works, not the world that we've created, it's pretty intuitive that like everything has a season, right? Everything kind of like progresses, but it's steady. And that's why I love, like we've talked about before, I love and most guys will say, like, man, just the idea of being away from all of this, like around real things like nature, or or like timeless things, right? There's just a draw to that, because that's like, yeah, that's how life actually works.
Mhm.
But we're just caught up in this constant, like, the wrong kind of growth, right? Like just rapid breakneck pace of like new, not like quality, or grounding or anything like that. But yeah, I think if you look at your relationship from the lens we look at a lot of other things, you'll be looking for hacks.
Well, it's interesting too, because the hack thing, it keeps things so very surface,
Mm-hmm.
where you can claim I'm doing this without actually really getting any better. Like, so it's kind of interesting, Mike, when you mentioned the plastic or whatever from California. And I think, oh, I saw that article. Literally, I saw the article. So I could say, I know that, I don't even know if it was Malaysia, but they rejected our trash. And it's like, so it gives the appearance that I'm well read. I haven't read crap. I'm one of the worst people. Like, I will get into an article, I'm like, that's too long, I'm not reading that. And I actually have multiple times lately, I've gotten in and started reading, and then my brain, because I've trained it into just having a short attention span, it's like, okay, and then I move on to something else. I've forced myself to go back in and finish reading all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was listening to my brother-in-law talk about something, and I was like, oh man, he really read that article like all the way through, not just like read the opening line, which is what I always do. But I do it, like, I think now sometimes, yeah, I don't want to do that. I want to check out. But I actually think I've thought to myself, I want to challenge myself to do this, because I want to like invest in things and actually be knowledgeable as far as I can be about this or this. Like, I don't want to just claim knowledge. I don't want to just tell my wife like, hey, I'm doing a good job, instead of like, oh, I'm actually trying to develop myself. I'm not here to make you happy, but I hope you are happy. And the life hack thing is often like, do these things and your wife will be happy. but I don't think that makes you a better husband.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's where I think it matters, this deep dive thing of saying, well, what if you actually went deeper than just the life hack and listened to all the episodes of the Manspace?
Well, and that's like, to me, I think there's something to be said for like, because like it or not, this is the way articles are now, right? Most of my articles are, like lists. Hey, here's these 10 things. Here's these,
you know what they do now? Some articles will say, here's the things you're going to read in this article. It will summarize
the key,
top,
the key takeaways.
I freaking love it. I'm like, cool, bye.
Yeah, AI. Yeah, I actually like, if I actually want to read the article, I will skip that part.
Yeah,
because once I've read it, I think, well, what's the point?
Yeah, now I know. Yeah,
yeah.
Even though it robs you of the opportunity to think for yourself of like, how would I take this?
Right. How would I interpret it?
Yeah.
And that's like, I do think there is with a caveat, a benefit to the kind of, hey, do these 3 things. And the caveat is like, one, if you go into it thinking, do these 3 things and my wife will be happy, well, you're already screwed, because you can't control your wife's happiness. You could do those 3 things.
Right.
It doesn't guarantee jack, because you can't guarantee someone else's emotions.
Right.
That's ridiculous. And so like right off the bat, I think, well, yeah, there's, don't fall victim to that. But it's not uncommon when I work with people and they're talking about change. I think I've done it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and assume everyone else has too. I will see something I want to change, and it's never one thing. Like, it's ultimately, it would be classified as one thing, but all the moving parts, there's like 50. And I'm like, all right, well, I guess I got to change all of them. And I go in, and very quickly I'm overwhelmed because I'm not seeing the success I want to see. And so I just slip back into the same old pattern because, well, I tried, and apparently I just suck because I couldn't do it. And so often when I work with people, I'll say, look, here's the thing. Like, this is the big overarching thing. That's great. What's a small thing that feeds it? Like, what's one small thing you could change and be successful at with relative ease? Because I know that tasting the success is going to more likely lead them to continue to push. And sure, they'll have setbacks. Like, at some point they'll try something and it won't work. And that's part of the process. But as people, particularly, I think more and more, we are way too prone to, if we don't experience immediate success, saying, well, clearly this idea doesn't work. Because if it did, I would be successful. I mean, years ago when I was teaching, our principal would get so frustrated because we would go to do these like district trainings. And then she would come back and she'd be like, hey, how come you guys aren't doing this? And the teachers would say, well, I tried it and it didn't work. And she's like, well, how many times did you try it? Well, like, I did this lesson and it was a train wreck. And she goes, do you expect your kids to get, whatever math concept you just taught on the first lesson? Like, well, no, that would be ridiculous. And she's like, but you thought you could execute this thing you've never done before perfectly on the first try? And they're like, oh, yeah. And that was like, for me, that's when I started to shift, be like, oh, right. If I think it's a good idea, I have to try it multiple times before I decide, no, this really doesn't work for me. Because half the time it's just, I'm not familiar enough with it to implement it correctly. It has nothing to do with the kids.
Right.
It's my delivery. And so my point is, like, I think we're too prone to just giving up and walking away. And so instead of looking at all 50 things, finding one thing and saying, hey, can I do this better?
That's actually, like in our 3 tips, I think that's why it's important to say it does matter that I think there is an order to this, that number 1 should matter. Like, that you should be looking to say, how do I become a better version of me? Like, how do I know myself really well before you can do the other things? I think the more you know yourself, the easier it is to fully show up.
Yeah.
It's not easy to be emotionally present if you can't be present with your own emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
That's where I wanted you to point to your PhD on the wall and be like, I mean, apparently quite a bit.
Somebody says I know a lot. The University of Texas Tech.
No, I think that's where like tips, tricks, strategies,
And
like
automobiles.
even the list of things that AI came up with for you. Those are all great things.
But go deeper.
Well, I think that the behavior can be the exact same, but if it's coming from a place of, more like we were talking about, more like checking a box, or even like a desire to do good, but a lack of depth.
Yeah. You're trying to do good for somebody else instead of.
It's a very different experience. But if it's coming from a place of, I guess, just more like deeply knowing yourself and being more able to give freely,
Mm-hmm.
it feels very different. And I don't think there's any way to truly like measure or quantify that. But I think sometimes, partners of a couple will try and describe that, and then it's kind of vague and elusive, and the other partner might be like, well, just tell me what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes we like crap on that response, but I'm like, there is a desire to do something good for the relationship, and that should be recognized. But if it's not coming from a deeper place, it probably will be unsatisfying for both of you, and then you'll just like continue in kind of a burnout, and then draw conclusions like, he doesn't care, and nothing will ever be good enough for her, right? And I just think in a lot of cases, both partners are having a really hard time describing that there's like, it's almost like there's an essence that's missing from all of this, and it resides deeper in both of us. And if we can't get to that place, then it doesn't even really matter what we do, right? It's always going to feel the same. And I think until you kind of can expand your capacity to feel things at that level, you can't really generate anything other than just tips and tricks and
Automobiles.
Yeah. Planes, trains, and automobiles.
I was going to say tips, tricks, and dorks.
Like cards, chips, dips, and dorks. Well, that's. I really liked actually the way this thing went. I wasn't, like I said, I was just proposing this idea. But the good news is none of us believe in life hacks. Not to say that they don't exist, but it's like you really do rob yourself of something when you put your focus on like, how do I get through life easily? It's like, well, you can. You're just robbing yourself of something.
Yeah.
So do better, spacemen. And then, oh, by the way, I just want to remind you and all our spacemen, this will be episode 195, which means we've got roughly 5 more episodes before Truth Bomb.
No, that's right.
Dude, I have been thinking about this for the last week, and I am I'm terrified.
Yeah. Me too, a little bit.
I am like already uncomfortable, but like ultimately, hey, I know it's a good thing, but
you know what we could do is like maybe in the next couple episodes encourage spacemen to write in what they think we need to work on.
No, I don't need like I don't need people who don't know me well.
Emails now.
Dear Rob, dude, I
don't need people who don't know me well.
Fantastic idea.
No, it's not.
You can put it out there
anonymously. Put it out there. Like here we are coaching all you listeners on how to be better. Coach us.
Oh, I kind of like it. I think I might
give us your honest thoughts.
Maybe we'll do a 2-parter. We do an episode. We do an episode. Rob needs to shut up. That's gonna be that one. I get a theme, and then I'll just ignore it. Like, no, we'll do an episode of the 3 of us, and then we'll do one on how spacemen will tell us, since we're always telling them what to do. I like it. I'm going to work towards it. So get ready, spacemen. Prepare your thoughts. Then come back next time and catch us.
We will wear. Sorry. What do we wear? We'll all wear jock straps and cups for that episode, guys.
Yeah.
Hit us hard.
That'd be so good. On the Manspace. It's not always about sex, Evan.